Hey class, Mr. Muhyiddin here with a little video regarding how to make an amortization table. So this video actually goes with the previous problem, so hopefully you're watching these in sequence if you're having trouble with this topic because the skills go well together. In the last problem we calculated that the monthly payment for our loan was $1,348.99, and that was based on a 6% interest rate, and the amount we borrowed that was amortized was $225,000. So the next task is to figure out what is the actual amortization schedule. So this is a little cumbersome. Technology makes it a lot easier, but it is important to know how the calculations are actually worked out. So the first thing to do is that you're going to actually use your monthly payment here exactly where you'd expect it. And that's actually going to remain constant, right? If you have a fixed interest rate, which you should in the future, you don't want to use what's called a variable interest rate because they can change on you and immediately make you pay much more money per month. But we're paying this amount every single month, right? Now what does change is how much of that goes to the bank and how much of that actually goes to our house. So to figure this out, we're going to multiply, so in general here, the interest column is calculated by the amount owed times I. Okay, the amount owed times I. Now, pausing for a moment here, I is equal to the interest per period. So it's 6% a year, but if we're paying every month, then we divide that amount by 12, and what we found was 0.005 was our I, right? So that's our interest per period. So effectively, we're going to figure out how much do we owe and multiply it by that amount to calculate the interest. So for the first payment, we actually owe the entire amount, right? $225. So that first interest calculation is going to be $225 times 0.005. So let me get my old calculator here from the year 2000 when I was in 8th grade. $225,000 times 0.005 gives me $1,125. So that's the amount of my first mortgage check that goes directly to the bank as their profit, essentially. The principal every month is going to be calculated by the monthly payment minus the interest. So this number right here minus whatever I pay in interest that month. These two numbers will always add together to make this amount because this is calculated from this minus this. So in this particular case, that would be, let's see, $1,348.99. Let me zoom in here a bit. $1,348.99 minus $1,125. So of my first check to the mortgage company, only $223 roughly, more like $224, $223.99. That's the amount that actually goes toward the house. That's how much I've actually paid for the house so far. And this last column is basically a running total of how much of the house I actually own. Now, granted, down payment makes the equity calculation a little bit different, but for our mortgage schedule at least, we owe this much, but now we've paid off that much. The rest of it was just interest, right? So now the amount owed is no longer $225. The amount owed is now $225 minus this amount that I just paid off, minus the $223.99, and that is going to multiply by I. So this number is still in my calculator, which is nice, 225, which is how much I originally owed, minus the amount that I just paid off in my first check, means I now owe this amount. That's not really important. What's more important is the interest I pay on it. So times the period interest rate, 0.005. This time I pay $1,123 and 88 cents in interest. Slightly less, but very slightly less. So of my monthly payment, how much of that goes to the bank is this? How much of that goes to my house that I can actually take out if I ever sell the house? That would be $1,348.99 minus the interest payment, or the interest amount. That gives me $225.11. $225.11. Now, what you should be noticing, this is sort of a quick check to see if you're doing it correctly. It's not a guarantee, but it's a good way to figure out if you're wrong at the very least. Is these numbers should slowly be going down, and by the same token, these numbers should slowly be going up. Right? So toward the end of the mortgage, in 30 years or so, you'll be paying very little interest and a lot going directly into your own pocket, basically. But at first, it's quite the other way around. It's kind of a depressing realization. So this month we paid that much toward the house. Last month we paid this much toward the house, or this number right here. So our running total now is going to be their sum. So I'm going to add up this amount that I just had for my payment on the house. I'm going to add that to what I've already paid in the house, which is $223.99, which was my first month. So I apologize for the hard to read screen, but you get the idea. So after 2 months, I've paid $449, and it looks like 10 cents. Just can't see that. There we go. Okay, so now month 3 rolls around. I originally owed $225, but now this is the amount I've already paid off. So I'm going to subtract the $449 from it, and then multiply that by I, which is still 0.005. So once again, this number is already in my calculator. Very nice. 225 minus the amount I've now paid after 2 months of payments. That's how much I now owe. Times my period interest rate gives me my interest payment this month of $1122.75. So my principal from my monthly payment is going to be the same fixed monthly payment minus the interest I just found. So you can see slowly but surely ticking up, very slowly, but eventually it works itself out. So this time, after 3 payments, I've now accumulated in my house this plus the $449 I had last month. $449.10, and I get $675.34. So you would think after 3 months of homeownership and paying, several $1,000s in your house, you'd think you'd have more of that to your name, but really you've only put $675 toward your house. The rest, again, is going directly to the bank. And now for the last row in this little short table. Real amortization tables are quite lengthy. Just a couple rows gives me a sense of if you understand what's happening. Once again, $225 is how much I originally owed, but now I've paid off this much, so minus that $675 number, times I. And I'm just writing these steps here just so it's very clear. If you know what you're doing and you can do some of it in the calculator, I'm really more interested in ultimately, can you come up with these numbers? But it's helpful to see as you're learning what the steps are, of course. So 225 minus how much I've paid now times the period interest rate gives me, once again, a very close but slightly different number than last month, which means I pay a little bit more for my house. The bank takes a slightly smaller cut, but not that much smaller. This time I paid $227.37. So only a couple cents more, really. Kind of sad, but what are you gonna do? Add these together to figure out how much I've paid after 4 months, and let's see what we get. $675.34 added to the amount we just had. $902.71. I think that was a popular show in the 90s. Could be wrong. All right. So slowly but surely we're gaining equity in our home by paying a little less in interest, albeit a lot, but slightly more and more and more of principal per month. So the main takeaways are the interest is calculated by the amount owed that month times the period interest rate. The monthly payment minus the interest gives you the principal, these two numbers subtracted, and then you keep a running total of how much you've actually paid toward the house in this column. And that helps feed the next column. Alrighty, hope this helps.